Good evening. You're watching ARIRANG News at 8. It's Friday, January 24th here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Yoo Ji-hye. We begin with some breaking news out of North Korea. Just about 15 minutes ago, we got word that Pyongyang has proposed holding reunions for families separated by the Korean War after the upcoming Lunar New Year holiday. The offer was made through the joint military hotline at Panmunjom at about 6:30 p.m. And details are still coming in about the proposal, but it comes after the North recently suggested it wanted to ease tensions on the Korean peninsula. We'll have more details on the offer for reunions in about 10 o'clock newscast on Primetime News. In the meantime, here's more on Pyongyang's latest peace offensive. Earlier in the day, North Korea has sent a letter to the South pushing Seoul to accept its recent friendly overtures, assuring that its proposal to stop cross-border verbal assaults is sincere. This comes just weeks ahead of joint military drills between Seoul and Washington. Hwang Sung-hee has the details.
North Korea says South Korea should not thoughtlessly doubt and rashly reject the sincere, important proposal it made last week to improve inter-Korean relations. Last week, Pyongyang offered to halt all cross-border slandering and asked Seoul to call off its annual joint military drills with Washington that take place between February and March. The offer was turned down flat by the South, which called it a disguised peace offensive. In an open letter addressed to South Korea on Friday, the North's powerful National Defense Commission said it had already halted all acts of slandering South Korea. North Korea has yet to react to comments made by President Park Geun-hye regarding the North during her trip to India and Switzerland, and the state-run Nodongshinmun newspaper has not published columns criticizing the South this week. It went on to say the North did not urge Seoul to stop ordinary military drills, but to halt drills for a war staged in collusion with outside forces. It said North Korea will first implement practical measures to end all hostile military acts that could aggravate the South. The letter claimed Pyongyang's nuclear program is purely defensive in nature and reiterated that its will for denuclearization should not be doubted. It stressed Pyongyang is determined to create an atmosphere of reconciliation, completely halt hostile military acts, realize the reunion of separated families, and to resume tours to Mount Kumgangsan in the north. Experts say this letter could be an attempt by the North to pressure the South Korean government into accepting its proposal by stressing its legitimacy. In an apparent extension of its attempt, Shin Sun-ho, the North Korean ambassador to the United Nations, is scheduled to hold a press conference in Geneva on Friday morning local time. Hwang Sung-hee, ARIRANG News.
And meanwhile, up in the north, officials from the two Koreas met on this Friday to discuss ways to ease restrictions on communications and transit at the inner Korean Kaesong factory zone. The talks were focused on improving the electronic identification system that would make it easier for South Korean businessmen to enter and exit the industrial complex. The officials also touched upon the issue of adopting the internet connectivity at the complex. This meeting is the fourth of its kind on reforming the transit and communication rules and the first inter-Korean dialogue this year following the one held back in November. And now to the escalating tension in Northeast Asia. That rancor was apparent at the World Economic Forum in Davos when Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe again defended his recent visit to a controversial war shrine and compared the Sino-Japanese relations to that of Britain and Germany before World War I. Seoul and Beijing both slammed the Japanese leader for his comments, and now the United States is reportedly urging Japan to reaffirm its apology over its wartime atrocities. For more, we connect live to our Yudian standing by at the News Center. Now, Leanne, what exactly is the U.S. asking of Japan?
As you mentioned, Jie, Prime Minister Abe's comments at the World Economic Forum in Davos earlier this week definitely bristled up relations between Japan and its neighbors, and it appears that Washington is trying to calm things down. U.S. officials say they will ask Abe to consider reaffirming Tokyo's previous formal apologies over World War II. This according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, Japan made formal apologies back in 1993 and 1995 for its war crimes and acknowledged that its military forced Asian women into sexual slavery in World War II. But we're not sure at this point whether this is a type of apology the United States is seeking from Japan. The U.S. officials will also ask Prime Minister Abe to refrain from making further comments that he knows will worsen relations and reach out to Korea specifically to end the bickering. As you may remember, Abe justified his visit to the controversial Yasukuni War Shrine earlier this week, saying that he had no intention to upset the victims of World War II. The U.S. officials are reportedly making the request through a series of diplomatic meetings in Washington and Tokyo.
All right, Leanne, has the Japanese government responded, and how will the latest move by Washington shape U.S.-Japan relations?
Well, Japan has yet to respond to the United States' request, but foreign media outlets do expect the two countries to speed up diplomatic efforts to smooth things over prior to President Obama's upcoming trip to Asia in April. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State William Burns, during his visit to Japan this Friday, told Japanese senior officials to improve relations with China and Korea that deteriorated after Abe's Yasukuni visit in December. Now, as for Abe, it is uncertain at this point what to expect from him in the weeks to come. Some pundits say he may now show some restraint because he believes he has proved himself a national leader by visiting the war shrine in December. But others say that given his high approval rating, he may continue with his ultra-nationalistic ways. Ji-hye.
All right, that was our Yudian reporting on U.S. efforts to ease tensions in Northeast Asia. And moving now to local politics, the main opposition party leader Kim Han-gil and independent lawmaker An Chol-soo have formed a united front against the ruling Saenuri party on outstanding political issues, including a controversial election system. Kim Han-gil has this report.
Opposition lawmakers Kim Han-gil and An Chol-soo sat down for discussions this Friday on election issues that made headlines last year. The meeting focused on two main topics: the system by which political parties field their own candidates for elections, and the allegations that the nation's spy agency and the military interfered in the 2012 presidential election. The two leaders agreed that the candidate nomination system should be abolished, as it acts as a breeding ground for money for nomination scandals. Abolition of the system was a campaign pledge of President Park Geun-hye, but she has not commented on the issue since she was elected. Her Saenuri party, however, wants to keep the system. And spokesperson took aim at the rival party in a press conference after the meeting on Friday.
The Saenuri party are trying to scrap the pledge to abolish the candidate nomination system in local elections. The public is watching.
The two opposition party leaders also called for a separate prosecutorial investigation into allegations that the nation's spy agency and the military interfered in the 2012 presidential election.
Kim Han-gil and An Chol-soo agreed to cooperate in appointing an independent prosecutor for the spy agency scandal and to abolish the candidate nomination system for local elections.
The two opposition leaders did not, however, talk about whether they would join forces to run in local elections slated for June 4th. But they did say they will hold a rally together to advocate for the abolition of the candidate nomination system soon. Kim Han-gil, ARIRANG News.
At the nation's top office, President Park Geun-hye is expected to issue thousands of special pardons ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday next week. The Justice Ministry said Friday that the pardons that will be issued to roughly 6,000 people include first-time offenders and small business owners charged with minor crimes, as well as those who have a driver's licenses suspended or revoked. The pardons will be discussed during a cabinet meeting next Tuesday and are expected to be issued right before Lunar New Year holiday, which begins on Thursday.
Touch base with journalists, experts, and analysts who are taking the pulse of Asia's heartbeat.
South Korea's defense minister.
In a lively half hour, join ARIRANG's Yoo Ji-hye for the day's top stories, current affairs, business, technology trends, plus global weather forecasts and more. ARIRANG News. Every weeknight, live on ARIRANG TV.
Some disappointing news for Samsung Electronics. For the first time in 2 years, the world's biggest maker of mobile phones and TVs saw its quarterly profits drop, largely brought down by a decline in margins in its mobile phone division. Our Shin Se-min has the details.
The world's biggest smartphone maker on Friday posted disappointing fourth quarter results, although its operating profit for all of 2013 reached an all-time high of 36 trillion won, or over $33 billion. Posting the first decline in its quarterly performance, Samsung said its profit for the October to December period fell 18% to $7.7 billion from the previous quarter. And this was also down 6% from a year earlier. The company said its profits were hit by the strength of the won. But the disappointing result was mainly due to its worse-than-expected earnings from its main smartphone business, which accounts for 2/3 of the company's entire operating profit. Yet the Korean brand maintained a market share of 30% in both developing and developed countries, reaffirming it as a top global brand. A Samsung Electronics official said the company is aiming to sell some 4 billion smartphones this year, an increase of 10% from last year, by expanding its smartphone line with new models and lower prices, and also by responding to growing LTE demands in Europe and China. The company's overall 2013 sales hit a record of $211 billion, up 14% from a year earlier. Its profits from its semiconductor and household appliance units both showed increases. Analysts say the coming year will depend largely on its performances in business for high-end smartphones and premium TVs, particularly in state-of-the-art ultra-high definition and curved panel televisions. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
More unwelcome news. Korea's number 2 car maker, Kia Motors, and its largest shareholder, Hyundai Motor Company, recorded weaker combined profits last year compared to the previous year, as exports were hampered by a stronger local currency. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Korea's second largest car maker, Kia Motors Corporation, attributed the drop in its operating profits last year to an unfavorable exchange rate as the Korean won strengthened against a weakening Japanese yen. Kia posted operating profits of around 3.2 trillion Korean won, or roughly $2.9 billion in 2013, a 9.8% drop from the previous year. The Korean won gained an average of 25.7% against the Japanese yen last year, curbing Kia's competitiveness against Japanese automakers. The drop in Kia's yearly operating profit for 2013 was proportionally larger than what Hyundai experienced. Hyundai saw its profits fall 1.5% to $7.7 billion. A Kia official said the company is relatively more vulnerable to exchange rate fluctuations than Hyundai, as it's more dependent on exports. More than 40% of Kia's sales rely on exports, while the figure for Hyundai was roughly 25%. Deliveries of Kia's pricier models at home, including the Sportage SUV and the Seoul wagon, helped Kia offset losses from sales in the U.S., which fell 4% compared with a year earlier. Hyundai and Kia had apologized in 2012 for misstating the fuel economy of its vehicles and issued debit cards to U.S. buyers as reimbursement for higher-than-expected fuel costs. The company's combined deliveries are expected to increase 4% to 7.9 million units in 2014, according to Hyundai Group Chairman Chung Mong-gu earlier this month. Kim Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
And the latest sign that bird flu is spreading in the nation, another flock of ducks was found dead in Central Korea, just north of where the virus was originally found. So far, about 400,000 ducks and chickens have been culled, and it looks like more will have to be slaughtered in the future. Kanya Lee has more.
As flocks of migratory birds made their way around Korea this winter, it seems they were both the carriers and the victims of the latest bird flu outbreak. On Friday, local officials announced that more ducks had been found dead in a city closer to Seoul in the central province of Chungcheongnam-do. And further south, in the nation's port city of Busan, officials are testing to see if a group of dead birds found there also tests positive for the latest H5N8 strain of bird flu. As their exact cause of death is being determined, officials have confirmed that another group of ducks found dead in a river in Chungcheongnam-do province was infected with the H5N8 strain of avian influenza. This is the first confirmation that AI has spread to other regions in the country. The ducks found in the Kumgang River in Seocheongun County were found about 50 kilometers north of Gocheongun County in Jeollabuk-do province, or the area where the bird flu outbreak started. To prevent the virus from spreading any further, local officials in Chungcheongnam-do have expanded the quarantine, banning the movement of farm workers and equipment within a 10-kilometer radius of the infected area. But these efforts may not be enough. Korea's Ministry of Environment says there are currently about 360,000 migratory birds in the southern and central parts of Korea, which is likely to make containment more difficult than anticipated. So far, a total of 9 farms have now been confirmed to be infected with the H5N8 strain of bird flu. Connie Lee, ARIRANG News.
And it's not only Korea scrambling to contain the fallout of a data breach. Credit card companies in the U.S. have confirmed that more than 2,000 credit cards were used illegally after a massive security breach of 1 million customers. And authorities say this may just be the beginning. Our Connie Kim has the details.
Korea isn't the only place where massive amounts of data have been leaked. U.S. credit card companies Visa, MasterCard, and Discover have confirmed that 2,400 credit cards were used fraudulently at Neiman Marcus and Last Call stores. The announcement follows the news that the information of more than 1 million credit and debit cards used at Neiman Marcus stores was leaked from July to October without the store's knowledge. Clues of the security breach were detected during the holiday shopping season. Neiman Marcus has explained that the theft was possible because of malicious software installed on its system in January. The company says it'll offer customers who shopped in its stores in 2013 free credit monitoring and identity theft protection for a year. The Neiman Marcus case is similar to another one involving U.S. retailer Target, where malware installed on card readers at stores nationwide captured the information of up to 110 million customers during the holiday shopping season. It has not been confirmed whether the malware installed on the Neiman Marcus system is the same used at Target. The FBI has since warned U.S. retailers that the security breaches that affected Target and Neiman Marcus may be just a small part of a bigger and more sophisticated scam, and urged them to prepare for more cyber attacks. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
On the culture front here in the country, if you want to immerse yourself into Korea's most beloved traditional song, ARIRANG, there is a must-see performance you want to check out this weekend. Our cultural correspondent Park Ji-won tells us more.
With the Lunar New Year holiday less than a week away, the New Korea Philharmonic Orchestra is holding a New Year's concert this weekend. The concert centers around Korea's most beloved traditional song, ARIRANG, which is now a listed UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. ARIRANG has been sung on the Korean peninsula for hundreds of years in many variations, and its sorrowful yet hopeful melodies are deeply inscribed in the hearts of every Korean. The concert presents 3 different ARIRANG-inspired pieces, including the Song of ARIRANG and ARIRANG Rhapsody, along with other pieces.
In line with the Korean government's focus on cultural enrichment, we hope to present ARIRANG, the song of our national heritage, to audiences outside of Korea.
Many still feel a bit burdened by the thought of attending classical performances. However, this is just like a big festival where audiences can sing along and celebrate the coming of the Lunar New Year holiday.
The concert will be held at the Seoul Arts Center at 2 p.m. this Saturday. Those who attend the concert wearing hanbok, traditional Korean clothing, will receive a 30% discount on admission. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
Let's go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center for an update. Now, Bo-kyung, we are enjoying a spring-like weather here in Korea, but I understand the situation is quite different in the Philippines.
That's right, Jihae. Ling, the first typhoon of the year, was formed on January 18th in the south-central regions of the Philippines. As of this Friday, over 100 million people have been affected and at least 56 people have been killed. Back here in the country, we are under the influence of a low-pressure front from the west, which is why we're seeing cloudy skies across the map. Well, nationwide showers are forecast for Saturday, but accumulations will only be about 5 millimeters, so it won't be much. A pre-heavy snowfall watch has been issued in Gangwon-do province, where at most 8 centimeters of snow will pile up on the mountains. Other than that, fine dust may come back in the central regions later tonight, so please tune in for future weather updates. Taking a closer look at tomorrow's readings, Seoul starts off the day at 5 degrees with a high of 7. Meanwhile, spring-like weather is forecast for Busan with a high of 15. Moving on to other regions, Daejeon makes it to 9 degrees, while Dokdo and Kumgang peak at 11 and 1 degrees respectively. Well, that's all I have for you this hour, and let's take a look at the international weather.
And before we let you go, here's what's coming in. South Korea's Unification Ministry has welcomed North Korea's offer for families separated by the Korean War, the reunions of families separated by the Korean War, that is, adding that the talks on the matter will follow. We'll have more details on that on our primetime news at 10 o'clock Korea time. And in the meantime, that's a broadcast on this Friday evening. I'm Yoo Ji-hae in Seoul. Thank you for watching.